Hello friends. Welcome to this audiobook summary of Atomic Habits by James Clear, a powerful book about how tiny daily habits can lead to remarkable results. James Clear begins Atomic Habits with a simple but powerful idea. Small habits can change your life in remarkable ways. He shares his personal story how a serious baseball injury in high school shattered his face, leaving him struggling to perform simple tasks. Recovery was slow, but over time, he rebuilt his life, not through dramatic breakthroughs, but by making tiny, consistent improvements. This experience taught him a universal truth. Success is not the result of massive changes made once, but of small, smart choices repeated consistently. Just as money grows through compound interest, habits compound over time, both good and bad. Claire explains that if you can improve by just 1% each day, those gains multiply into huge changes over months and years. On the other hand, tiny mistakes or poor habits can quietly drag you down. The book is designed as a practical guide, showing you exactly how to build good habits, break bad ones, and master the small behaviors that lead to extraordinary results. Rather than focusing solely on goals, Clear emphasizes building systems, the step-by-step processes that naturally lead you toward the life you want. By the end, you'll see that you don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You just need to master the art of tiny changes and let time do the rest. In this summary, I'll walk you through each chapter, sharing the key ideas, examples, and practical lessons so you can start applying them right away. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. The Surprising Power of Small Habits. James Clear explains that success is not built on big, dramatic changes, but on the small actions we take every day. What matters most is the direction you're heading, not your current results. Because results are just a delayed reflection of your habits. Time works like a magnifier, it multiplies the effects of your habits. Good habits make time your friend, bad habits make it your enemy. Goals can help you set a target, but systems, the routines and processes you follow, are what actually lead to progress. Clear introduces the idea of the plateau of latent potential, where effort seems to bring little result at first. Many people quit here, not realizing that growth is happening beneath the surface. Once you cross the tipping point, change appears sudden, but it's actually the result of consistent small actions. For example, if you improve your fitness by jogging just 10 minutes a day, you might see little change in the first few weeks. But after months of consistency, your stamina, health, and body will show visible transformation, proving how small efforts compound over time. He emphasizes that habits are like compound interest for self-improvement. Even a 1% improvement every day can produce remarkable results over time, while small declines can lead to negative outcomes. Small habits, repeated consistently, are the building blocks of big achievements. Chapter 2. How your habits shape your identity. Changing habits is difficult for two main reasons. We often focus on the wrong target, and we often approach change in the wrong way. James Clear says there are 3 levels of change: outcomes, processes, and identity. Outcomes are about the results you get. Processes are about the actions you take. Identity is about your beliefs about yourself. Most people focus on outcome-based habits, chasing results. But identity-based habits are more powerful, because they focus on becoming the kind of person who naturally achieves those results. The deepest motivation comes when a habit becomes part of who you are. The process is straightforward. First, choose the type of person you want to be. Then, prove it to yourself with small, repeated wins. Ask yourself, who is the person that would achieve what I want? And start behaving like that person immediately in small ways. Your identity grows from your habits, and every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you believe you are. Becoming your best self means regularly updating your beliefs and expanding your sense of identity. The true value of habits is not only in better results, it is in reshaping your view of yourself. Example, if you want to become fit, don't just aim to lose 10 kilos. Instead, start seeing yourself as a healthy person. A healthy person chooses water over soda, takes the stairs instead of the elevator, and works out even when motivation is low. Each small, healthy choice reinforces that identity, and over time, the results will follow naturally. Chapter 3. How to build better habits in 4 simple steps. When you want to change a behavior, ask yourself 4 key questions. 1. How can I make it obvious? 2. How can I make it attractive? 3. How can I make it easy? 4. How can I make it satisfying? A habit is formed when a behavior is repeated so often that it becomes automatic. The purpose of habits is to help you solve life's problems with less effort and energy. Every habit works through a 4-step loop. Cue the trigger, craving the desire for change, response, the action, and reward the benefit you get. From this loop comes the 4 laws of behavior change, a clear formula for creating good habits and removing bad ones. 1. Make it obvious. 2. Make it attractive. 3. Make it easy. 4. Make it satisfying. Example, if you want to start reading more, put a book on your pillow every morning. Make it obvious. Choose a book you're genuinely excited about. Make it attractive. Commit to reading just 1 page a night. Make it easy. And allow yourself to relax with a cup of tea while reading. Make it satisfying. Before long, reading becomes a natural part of your nightly routine. Chapter 4. The Man Who Didn't Look Right. If you're unsure whether a habit is good or bad, ask yourself, does this action help me become the person I want to be? Does it count as a vote for or against my desired identity? With enough repetition, your brain starts recognizing cues and predicting outcomes automatically, without conscious effort. The downside is that once a habit becomes automatic, you often stop noticing what you're actually doing. That's why the first step in changing a habit is awareness. You can't improve what you don't notice. James Clear introduces a technique called pointing and calling, where you verbalize your actions as you do them. This turns unconscious behaviors into conscious ones. Another tool is the Habits Scorecard, a simple list of your daily habits, each labeled as positive, negative, or neutral. This helps you clearly see which behaviors support your goals and which ones work against them. Example: imagine you're trying to eat healthier. Using the Habits Scorecard, you might list eat breakfast positive, drink soda negative, snack on fruit positive. Then, while reaching for a soda, you say out loud, I am about to drink soda, which doesn't support my goal of being healthy. This small act of pointing and calling increases your awareness and makes it easier to choose a better option. Chapter 5. The best way to start a new habit. One of the biggest challenges in building a new habit is remembering to do it. James Clear explains that the solution is to use implementation. Intention's a simple plan that links your habit to a specific time and place. Instead of vaguely saying, I'll start exercising, you commit to a clear statement like, I will exercise at 7 a.m. in the living room. This removes uncertainty and makes the habit easier to follow. Another powerful strategy is habit stacking a new habit to an existing one. The formula is, after I current habit, I will new habit. Since your brain already recognizes the cue for your current habit, it becomes a natural trigger for the new one. The key is to be specific and realistic. Vague intentions often fail, but clear, structured cues help habits stick. Example: if you want to start meditating, instead of saying, I'll meditate more, you could say, after I brush my teeth in the morning, I will meditate for 2 minutes at my desk. Brushing your teeth becomes the trigger, and over time, this short practice can grow into a longer meditation routine. Chapter 6. Motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. James Clear explains that we often rely too much on motivation to build habits, but motivation fades. A better approach is to design your environment so that good habits are easier and bad habits are harder. Your surroundings influence your behavior far more than you realize. Visual cues are especially powerful. What you see often determines what you do. If healthy snacks are on the counter, you're more likely to eat them. If the TV remote is right next to you, you'll probably watch more TV. By shaping your physical space, you can nudge yourself toward better choices without needing constant willpower. You can also create separate spaces for different habits. When each place in your environment is tied to a specific behavior, your brain makes stronger associations, making the habit easier to repeat. Example: if you want to play guitar more often, don't keep it in its case, inside a closet. Place it on a stand in the middle of your living room. The sight of the guitar becomes a cue to practice, turning an occasional activity into a regular habit. Chapter 7. The Secret to Self-Control. Many people think they need more willpower to break bad habits, but James Clear argues that self-control is easier when you don't have to use it often. The best way to resist temptation is to avoid it in the first place. Instead of relying on discipline, design your environment so that triggers for bad habits are out of sight and out of reach. Research shows that people with strong self-control aren't necessarily more disciplined, they simply face fewer temptations. By removing the cues that spark unwanted behaviors, you prevent the habit loop from starting at all. Rather than trying to be strong in the moment, make it impossible or inconvenient to engage in the bad habit. Example: if you want to spend less time on social media, don't just promise yourself you'll use it less. Log out of your accounts, delete the apps from your phone, or store your phone in another room during work hours. Without constant notifications or easy access, you'll naturally reduce the habit without relying on sheer willpower. Chapter 8. How to make a habit irresistible. James Clear explains that to make a habit stick, you need to link it with something you already enjoy. This idea is based on temptation, pairing an action you want to do with an action you need to do. When a habit feels rewarding in the moment, you're far more likely to repeat it. This works because our brains are wired to respond to immediate rewards, not just long-term benefits. By combining a necessary habit with something enjoyable, you make the process attractive instead of a chore. You can also increase a habit's appeal by joining a group where the desired behavior is the norm. We tend to adopt habits that help us fit in with the people we admire or want to be like. Example: if you want to exercise more, you could allow yourself to watch your favorite TV show only while walking on the treadmill. The fun of watching the show makes the workout something you look forward to, turning it into a habit you enjoy instead of one you force yourself to do. Chapter 9. The role of family and friends in shaping your habits. James Clear explains that the people around you have a powerful influence on your habits. We naturally imitate the behavior of 3 groups: the close family and friends, the many, the social majority, and the powerful people we admire or want to impress. When a habit is common in your social circle, you're more likely to adopt it because it feels normal and socially rewarding. This is why joining a group where your desired behavior is the norm can make it easier to stick with the habit. On the other hand, if your environment is full of people who regularly engage in habits you're trying to avoid, it becomes harder to resist because social pressure works both ways. Example, if you want to run regularly, join a local running club. Being surrounded by people who value fitness will encourage you to show up and participate. Over time, the group's culture reinforces your identity as a runner, making the habit feel natural instead of forced. Chapter 10. How to find and fix the causes of your bad habits. James Clear explains that every habit, good or bad, starts with a craving. If you want to break a bad habit, you need to figure out what that habit is really giving you. Often, bad habits are just misguided ways of meeting a genuine need, like comfort, relief, or connection. The key is to keep the need but replace the behavior that fulfills it. Instead of fighting the craving, find a healthier action that satisfies the same underlying desire. This approach works better than simply trying to stop a habit, because it addresses the root cause rather than the symptom. He also suggests reframing how you see your habits. By making bad habits unattractive, focusing on the negative consequences rather than the temporary pleasure you weaken their pull over you. Example, if you smoke to relieve stress, quitting cold turkey might leave you feeling tense and restless. Instead, identify the real need: stress relief, and replace smoking with deep breathing exercises, stretching, or a short walk. This way you still meet the need but without the harmful behavior. Chapter 11. Walk slowly, but never backward. James Clear emphasizes that success comes from consistent progress, not from moving as fast as possible. The key is to keep improving, even if the steps are small. Tiny gains, when repeated, compound into big results over time. He warns that chasing quick wins can be risky. If you push too hard, you might burn out or quit. Instead, focus on steady improvement and avoid slipping backward into old habits. This mindset builds sustainable momentum, making it easier to keep going. Clear's message is simple. It's okay to move slowly, as long as you keep moving forward. Progress, no matter how small, is better than stopping or reversing your efforts. Example, if you're learning to play the piano, practicing for just 15 minutes a day might not seem like much at first. But over months and years, that consistent practice will make you far better than someone who practices intensely for a week and then quits. Chapter 12. The Law of Least Effort. James Clear explains that humans naturally gravitate toward the option that requires the least effort. This principle, known as the law of least effort, means that if a habit is easy to start and maintain, you're more likely to stick with it. To build good habits, reduce friction, the small obstacles that slow you down. To break bad habits, increase friction so they become harder to do. Even small changes in convenience can have a big impact on whether you follow through. By designing your environment to make desired habits simple and undesired ones inconvenient, you make progress almost automatic. Example, if you want to eat more fruit, wash and cut it ahead of time. Then place it in a visible spot in your fridge. On the other hand, if you want to cut down on junk food, store it in a high cupboard, or avoid buying it altogether. Making the healthy choice easier and the unhealthy choice harder sets you up for success without relying on willpower. Chapter 13. How to stop procrastinating by using the 2-minute rule. James Clear introduces the 2-minute rule to make starting a new habit easier. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. The idea is to scale down your habit to its simplest form, so it feels easy to begin. This works because the biggest barrier to change is often just getting started. Once you're in motion, it's easier to keep going. By focusing on the first 2 minutes, you overcome resistance and create a gateway to bigger actions. The 2-minute rule also helps prevent procrastination by lowering the mental barrier to action. Instead of aiming for perfection, you aim for progress. Example, if you want to read more, commit to reading 1 page each night. If you want to exercise, start by putting on your workout clothes. These small starts make it easy to begin, and often you'll end up doing more once you've started. Chapter 14. How to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. James Clear explains that the most reliable way to stick to good habits is to design your environment so that the right actions are the only ones available. By automating your choices or creating systems that lock in good behavior, you remove the need for constant decision-making and willpower. Likewise, if you want to break a bad habit, make it impossible or at least highly inconvenient to do. The harder it is to start, the less likely you are to follow through. Automation tools, pre-commitment strategies, and smart environment design can make good habits effortless and bad habits nearly impossible. Example, if you want to save more money, set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your savings account right after payday. On the other hand, if you want to stop watching too much TV, unplug it after each use and store the remote in another room. By making the good habit easy and the bad habit inconvenient, you naturally shift your behavior in the right direction. Chapter 15. The Cardinal Rule of Behavior Change. James Clear shares the cardinal rule of behavior change. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. and what is immediately punished is avoided. Our brains are wired to prioritize instant rewards over long-term benefits, which is why habits that feel good right away are easier to stick with. To build a habit, make the experience satisfying in the moment. To break a habit, make the experience unpleasant right away. Immediate feedback keeps motivation high and reinforces the behavior loop. Since many good habits have delayed rewards, like exercising or saving money, you can add a short-term incentive to make them more appealing while you wait for the long-term benefits to show up. Example, if you're trying to work out regularly, allow yourself to watch your favorite show only after completing your workout. The show becomes the instant reward, making you look forward to the habit instead of dreading it. Chapter 16. How to stick with good habits every day. James Clear explains that one of the most effective ways to keep a habit going is through habit tracking, visually recording your progress. Tracking gives you a clear reminder to act, keeps you motivated by showing how far you've come, and provides instant satisfaction for making progress visible. The key is to never miss a habit twice. Missing once is normal. Missing twice is the start of a new, unwanted pattern. Even if you can't do the full habit, doing a smaller version keeps the streak alive and maintains momentum. Habit tracking works because it turns your progress into a game and makes you less likely to break the chain of success you've built. Example, if your goal is to drink more water, keep a daily checklist on your phone or mark an X on your calendar each time you hit your water goal. Seeing the chain of X's grow will push you to keep going, even on days when motivation is low. Chapter 17. How an accountability partner can change everything. James Clear explains that having someone to hold you accountable greatly increases the likelihood of sticking to a habit. When another person is aware of your goals and monitors your progress, social pressure works in your favor. You naturally want to follow through to avoid letting them down. One powerful method is a habit contract, a written agreement that outlines your commitment to a habit, the consequences for not following through, and the people who will enforce those consequences. The added social and sometimes financial cost of failure makes quitting less appealing. Accountability partners work because they add an immediate consequence to your actions, making you think twice before breaking your commitment. Example, if you're trying to go to the gym 3 times a week, you could make a pact with a friend. If you skip a workout, you owe them $20. Knowing that skipping has an instant cost both financially and socially will push you to stay consistent. Chapter 18. The truth about talent, when genes matter and when they don't. James Clear explains that while habits can be built by anyone, choosing the right habits for your natural strengths gives you an advantage. Your genetics influence your personality, skills, and tendencies, so it's wise to align your habits with activities you naturally find rewarding and enjoyable. Instead of forcing yourself to succeed in areas that drain you, focus on where you have a higher chance of excelling. This alignment between your habits and your nature makes consistency easier and results faster. The key is self-awareness, understanding what comes naturally to you, and leaning into it. While hard work matters, working in the right direction matters even more. Example, if you're naturally competitive and energetic, you might thrive in high-intensity sports like basketball or CrossFit, but if you're more analytical and patient, you might enjoy activities like chess or coding. Choosing habits that fit your nature makes them far easier to sustain. Chapter 19. The Goldilocks Rule. How to stay motivated in life and work. James Clear explains that humans stay most motivated when working on tasks that are just the right level of challenge, not too easy, not too hard. This is called the Goldilocks rule. When a task is perfectly balanced between comfort and difficulty, it keeps you engaged and prevents boredom or burnout. If something is too easy, you lose interest. If it's too hard, you feel discouraged. By aiming for the just right zone slightly beyond your current ability, you maintain focus, excitement, and steady improvement. The Goldilocks rule also applies to habits. Once a habit feels boring, you need to find ways to keep it interesting by tracking progress, setting new goals, or adding varieties so your motivation doesn't fade. Example, if you're learning guitar, starting with only 2 chords might get boring, but trying to play an advanced solo on day 1 will frustrate you. Instead, gradually increasing difficulty like learning 1 new chord a week keeps you challenged and motivated. Chapter 20. The downside of creating good habits. In the final chapter, James Clear warns that while habits are powerful tools for success, they can also make you operate on autopilot, which may lead to stagnation. Once something becomes automatic, you risk stopping your growth if you don't push yourself to improve further. The key is to combine habits with deliberate practice, actively seeking feedback, refining your skills, and stepping outside your comfort zone. Success comes from staying aware, not just relying on routines. Clear also emphasizes that habits are not a finish line but a lifelong system. The goal isn't to arrive but to keep evolving. Periodically reviewing and adjusting your habits ensures they still align with who you want to become. Example, a public speaker who has given the same type of talks for years may stop improving because the process feels easy. By trying new formats, like hosting live Q&A sessions or speaking to a different audience, they keep their skills sharp and avoid plateauing. So friends, remember, change doesn't happen overnight. It's the tiny, consistent habits that create extraordinary results. Start small, stay patient, and keep improving every day. Here's to your journey of transformation, one atomic habit at a time. Thanks for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe the channel. See you next time.